Today's video is sponsored by Wondershare Filmora. Ever found yourself watching a YouTube video and thinking, hey, I could do that? Well, that's exactly how I got started 6 years ago. But back then, I didn't have any experience with editing and wasn't sure where to begin. If you'd like to start making your own videos, you should download Wondershare Filmora, the popular and easy to use editing software. It's perfect for beginners and experienced editors alike. It's free to try and comes with loads of preset templates like effects, filters, transitions, and even royalty-free music, making it super easy to jump in and start creating. Here, let me show you how it works. Just drag and drop your clips onto the editing track, add transitions and music, and just like that, you're underway. If you're short on time, Filmora helps speed things along. They just released their latest version, v10.5, which includes awesome features like auto reframe, AR stickers, audio effects, and the film stock effects library integration, all of which help to streamline the editing process. There's even a paid add-on option called AI Portrait, which removes backgrounds without needing a green screen or chroma key. So if you want to become a content creator but don't know where to start, I recommend you download Wondershare Filmora 10 in the description below and try it for free. The free trial will have a watermark, but here's the deal. If you comment what you think of the latest version of Filmora down below, or share your own video creation using hashtag #CreateWithFilmora and tag me on Twitter, the Filmora team will pick a lucky winner from each to win a 1-year free license. Good luck to all of you, find that link in the description, and happy creating. Reddit. It's the front page of the internet. A place where you can find communities of like-minded people talking about their favourite hobbies, their interests, even about themselves. Occasionally, however, they do share a little too much. Today we're examining 3 posts from the dark side of Reddit. So get your favourite drink ready, snuggle up, and prepare yourself, because we're about to dive into some dark digital waters. r/oddlyterrifying is a subreddit that's easy to get lost in for an hour or two. As the name suggests, it focuses on things that are unexpectedly unsettling. Scrolling down, you'll find loads of weird insects, animatronics, and this guy doing his thing. And for the most part, there's a light-hearted playfulness to all of the images and videos there. But for all of the weird and wacky things you might stumble across on Oddly Terrifying, occasionally you'll find a post that's legitimately horrifying. Last year, user Menses posted this video of a suspected rabies patient. The patient's displaying one of the signature symptoms of rabies, hydrophobia, an intense fear of water. Now I have to admit that although I knew rabies was deadly, I didn't exactly know what it did to the human body, or the human mind. The fact that it caused you to be scared of water was news to me. So I went down to the comment section and dug a little further. That's where I found a link to a post made by user Zeri Masterpiece, a person who spent a lot of time working with rabies and is far more knowledgeable than most on the subject. And trust me when I say that their post is as bone-chilling as it is enlightening. Here's what they had to say. Rabies. It's exceptionally common, but people just don't run into the animals that carry it often. Skunks especially, and bats. Let me paint you a picture. You go camping, and at midday, you decide to take a nap in a nice little hammock. While sleeping, a tiny brown bat, in the rage stages of infection, is fidgeting in broad daylight, uncomfortable and thirsty due to the hydrophobia, and you snort, startling him. He goes into attack mode. Except you're asleep, and he's a little brown bat, so weighs around 6 grams. You don't even feel him land on your bare knee, and he starts to bite. His teeth are tiny, hardly enough to even break the skin, but he manages to make the equivalent of a tiny scrape that goes completely unnoticed. Rabies does not travel in your blood. In fact, a blood test won't even tell you if you've got it. You wake up, none the wiser. If you notice anything at the bite side at all, you assume you just lightly scraped it on something. The bomb has been lit, and your nervous system is the wick. The rabies will multiply along your nervous system, doing virtually no damage, completely undetectable. You literally have no symptoms. It may be 4 days, it may be a year, but the camping trip is most likely long forgotten. Then one day, your back starts to ache, or maybe you get a slight headache. At this point, you're already dead. There is no cure. The sole caveat to this is the Milwaukee Protocol, which leaves most patients dead anyway, and the survivors mentally disabled, and is seldom done. There's no treatment. It has a 100% kill rate. Absorb that. Not a single other virus on this planet has a 100% kill rate. Only rabies. And once you're symptomatic, it's over. You're dead. So, what does that look like? Your headache turns into a fever, and a general feeling of being unwell. You're fidgety, uncomfortable, and scared. As the virus that has taken its time getting into your brain finds a vast network of nerve endings, it begins to rapidly reproduce, starting at the base of your brain, where your pons is located. This is the part of the brain that controls communication between the rest of the brain and body, as well as sleep cycles. Next, you become anxious. You still think you only have a mild fever, but suddenly you find yourself becoming scared, even horrified, and it doesn't occur to you that you don't know why. This is because the rabies is chewing up your amygdala. As your cerebellum becomes hot with the virus, you begin to lose muscle coordination and balance. You think maybe it's a good idea to go to the doctor now, but assuming a doctor is smart enough to even run the tests necessary in the few days you have left on the planet, odds are they'll only be able to tell your loved ones what you died of later. You're twitchy, shaking, and scared. You have the normal fear of not knowing what's going on, but with the virus really fucking with your amygdala, this is amplified 100-fold. It's around this time the hydrophobia starts. You're horribly thirsty. You just want water, but you can't drink. Every time you do, your throat clamps shut and you vomit. This has become a legitimate, active fear of water. You're thirsty, but looking at a glass of water begins to make you gag, and you shy back in fear. The contradiction is hard for your hot brain to see at this point. By now, the doctors will have put you on IVs to keep you hydrated, but even that's futile. You were dead the second you had a headache. You begin hearing things, or not hearing things at all, as your thalamus goes. You taste sounds. You see smells. Everything starts feeling like the most horrifying acid trip anyone has ever been on. With your hippocampus long under attack, you're having trouble remembering things, especially family. You're alone, hallucinating, thirsty, confused, and absolutely, undeniably terrified. Everything scares the literal shit out of you at this point. These strange people in lab coats. These strange people standing around you crying, who keep trying to get you to drink something. And it's only been about a week since that little headache you've completely forgotten. Time means nothing to you anymore. Funnily enough, you now know how the bat felt when he bit you. Eventually, you slip into the dumb rabies phase. Your brain has started the process of shutting down. Too much of it has turned to liquid virus. Your face droops. You drool. You're all but unaware of what's around you. A sudden noise or light might startle you, but for the most part, it's all you can do to just stare at the ground. You haven't really slept for about 72 hours. Then, you die. Always, you die. And there's not one fucking thing anyone can do for you. Then, there's the question of what to do with your corpse. I mean, sure, burying it is the right thing to do, but the rabies can survive in a corpse for years. You could kill every rabid animal on the planet today, and if 2 years from now, some moist, preserved, rotten hunk of used-to-be brain gets eaten by an animal, it starts all over. So yeah, rabies scares the shit out of me, and it's fucking everywhere. Yeah, it's a messed up breed, and paints a very grim picture of an unfortunate person's final days. MacMasterpiece goes on to explain that although deaths from rabies are rare in the USA because of an aggressive treatment protocol, rabies itself is extremely common, and in other parts of the world, like India, it claims tens of thousands of lives every year. Scary stuff. After discovering that post, this video becomes a hell of a lot more scary. Knowing what this guy was going through, what he was about to go through, how confused he must have felt, and the fact that by now, he's already long gone. In this video, he was already dead. He just didn't know it yet. Aokiemom was an active member of the Reddit community. A mother to 5 boys and 2 girls, she participated a lot in conversations with other parents, discussing family finances, recipes, parenting strategies, and the like. It's clear from her message history that she was a devoted family woman and parent. For instance, she posted, "Life is about making good job or income choices, and then making the best money choices based on your income. I would never give up having any of my children so I could have more money. They are amazing people, and the world will benefit by having them in it, and nothing I could buy or invest in could compare to giving a person a chance to have a life." Touching stuff. The thing is, Aokiemom was a very active user 6 years ago, but then, on June 24th, 2015, she made her final post on the site, and then suddenly became inactive. Now that in itself isn't too unusual. I mean, people leave Reddit for all kinds of reasons, right? Maybe she got bored or busy. No. The reason behind her disappearance was much darker in nature. You see, Aokiemom's real name was April Bever. She was 42 years old and was indeed the mother of 7 children. She was also one of the victims in the Broken Arrow killings, in which she, her husband, and 3 of her children were slain. And what's more, it was 2 of her sons that committed the massacre. On the night of July 22nd, 2015, brothers Robert and Michael Bever, 18 and 16 respectively, lured their family members into the same part of the house, then suddenly and inexplicably began attacking them with hatchets and other blades. April was punctured 48 times in the neck, head, torso, arms, and hands. Her husband David was punctured 28 times. Daniel Bever, 12. Christopher Bever, 7. And Victoria Bever, 5, also lost their lives that fateful night. The 2 brothers also tried to slay their sister, Crystal, 13, but even though her throat was slit and her stomach punctured, she not only managed to survive, but was able to call the authorities for help. Officers arrived in time to save her life and apprehend Robert and Michael. Autumn Bever, who was only 2, was sound asleep and unharmed in another room. Robert confessed to what he and his brother had done, and even stated that had the police not arrived, they were planning to drive around the area and kill 5 people each at various locations until they reached a body count of 50 people. Michael took things further, saying he wanted to claim the lives of 500 people. An outlandish target, but who knows how many lives Crystal saved that night by calling the police. Almost certainly not just her own. Reading through Aokiemom's old, ordinary Reddit posts is absolutely heart-wrenching, knowing what ultimately became of her. She wrote about her sons so warmly and lovingly, but in the end, they were the ones who not only took her life, but the lives of the rest of her family that she loved so much too. Both Robert and Michael were sentenced to life, Michael with the possibility of parole, Robert without. They're serving their time in separate correctional centers. When we're behind our screens, interacting with strangers online, it's easy to feel this sense of anonymity, like we can get away with saying whatever we want to whoever we want. That really isn't the case though, especially on sites like Reddit. In the past, there have been numerous instances of people making posts, safe in the belief that there won't be any consequences. Time and again, however, those people have been proven wrong. There have been people who have confessed to cheating on their partners, only for another user to check out their history, connect a few dots, and realize that it's actually John who's married to their sister. There have been people who have gotten into arguments with other users, said the most vulgar things, only for the other person to find out who they are and get them fired from their job. Even if you use a throwaway account, Sometimes a group of Reddit detectives will come together to uncover your real identity. That is, if the post you made warrants such drastic action. Some users have even been tracked down and questioned by the authorities, or even jailed for admitting to their unlawful actions. Despite that, thousands of people continue to wear their dirty laundry every day on the site. Of course, most of these confessions are nothing too serious. There are, however, exceptions to that. 5 years ago, on r/AskReddit, user Purple Gherkins asked this question. To those of you who have accidentally killed someone, what went wrong? Of the more than 10,000 replies, most of them were either not personal accounts, accidental motor collisions, or instances where the user was either defending themselves or otherwise justified in their actions. Interesting reads, sure, but nothing nefarious. But buried in amongst all the replies was one that was very different. One that eventually caught everyone's attention. A response left by user barkeology. This still haunts me to this day. As kids, we had a hideout in this dirt cliff, cove kind of thing. This is the best approximation I can find on Google, only 3 times taller and probably 10 times as wide. There was a neighborhood kid who, in hindsight, was probably mentally handicapped in some way, but to us he was just the weird, creepy kid. This was the 80s and we weren't exactly raised PC. 3 of us were headed to our base and found creepy kid sitting at the top in our guard chair. We yelled at him to get out, and he said something like, "Make me," and started lobbing dirt clods and sticks down at us. We all ran around the side to make our way up. It gets pretty fuzzy here, but all I remember is he fell. I still remember the sound. When we got back down to check on him, he was in a very awkward position, with blood coming out of his mouth. We all just freaked out and ran home, and as far as I know, no one has spoken a word of this to anyone. We didn't go back for over a month, and never said a word of it between us. Again, this was the 80s, so media wasn't like today. Chances are it got a small article in the newspaper B section. Missing mentally disabled child found dead after fall, or something like that. Some users sympathized with barkeology's story, while others started questioning whether the other kid fell accidentally, or if he was pushed. Again, barkeology said that his memory was fuzzy, but given the title of the thread, many speculated that it was the latter. But through his main comment, and various others that he left, barkeology had given several key tidbits of identifying information, and, behind the scenes, other editors were doing some sleuthing. One of them seemingly worked out who the victim was. Was it Scott Cleeshold? He went missing in 1988, in St. Charles, MO, correct? That would make you around 10 or 11 at the time he went missing. He would have been 9. Scott was last seen not far from his home, in the 3300 block of Lavernus Drive, walking near a wooded area known as the Trails. It was just before a fierce thunderstorm swept through the area. As long as 6 weeks after his disappearance, police conducted large-scale searches of the area near Scott's home. The searches involved digging at a labyrinth of caves in the wooded hillside where Scott was known to play with other neighborhood children. I don't know if it is this kid. If it were him, and if the story is what you said, it seems likely his body would have been found. A corpse of a 9-year-old at the bottom of some land formation can get washed away pretty easily in a storm, however. If it is or isn't him, you need to talk to your local PD. This discovery may have hit a nerve, because it was at that point that barkeology deleted his original confession post. His account has since remained inactive for the past 5 years, and he offered up no further information about the incident. As it stands, it's unclear what happened to barkeology, whether there was more to his story, or if he ever brought the matter up with the authorities. It's also unknown whether Scott Cleeshold was really the victim in question. But this post, and thousands like it, prove that you never know what skeletons someone might be hiding in their closet. Heck, maybe you have a few skeletons of your own. If you do, take my advice. Don't go posting about them on Reddit, or you might just end up in a video like this. Thanks for listening, Lazy Legion. A big thank you to all of my supporters here on YouTube and over on Patreon. especially my biggest supporters: Alex Greensall, Alunír, Azrael Warakai, Charlie Lackey, Connor Louthan, Crawford K. McDonald, Expand Dong, Gina Valera, Gracearchie, Infamous-senpapi, Leonardo Martinez, Lord 210, LucasManiac, Mackenzie Griffin, Mira Lancaster, Monica Mendoza, Native Beauty, Peter Loggerech, Philip Westra, Procupidine Natter, Ronnie Franklin, Sarah Ramirez, Sean M. Brenner, Silas Geist, Sloane Crawford, Taylor&Monica Gruenk, The Only Dorita, Miss Crypto, Mrs. Yvonne Rankin, Hungry and Hammered, Hamish K, Tom Brady is Based, Jeff the Killer, Lydia Glossley, Yoshi6500, and Phantom Knight. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. Remember to smash that like button or I'll smash you. Be sure to subscribe, and you'll be hearing from me again very soon. Until then, you all stay spooky. And remember, the best things happen in the dark.